Alright, so this franchise has given us an entertaining summer slasher, a bizarre mess of a sequel, a pretty much unwatchable direct-to-video remake, and now here we are getting a full-on requel. So does this latest entry actually get things back on track a little bit? Let's talk about it. I Know What You Did Last Summer is the fourth entry in the horror slasher series, and it's about 5 friends inadvertently causing a deadly car accident, making a pact to cover up their involvement and keep it a secret rather than face all of the consequences. But a year later, their past comes back to haunt them because someone knows what they did and is hell-bent on getting revenge. So believe me when I say that I like a good 90s slasher movie as much as the next guy, but I Know What You Did Last Summer was one that never really quite fit into that stone-cold classic territory for me. When you boil it down, it's basically just a Scream knockoff about a bunch of teen heartthrobs trying to survive a deranged fisherman, and there's a decent amount of fun to be had with that first entry, but it is so synonymous with Scream because it's really a time capsule of that decade, and it shares the same screenwriter in Kevin Williamson. So when I sat down to watch this new film, I really wasn't expecting all that much, but I wanted to see if they found some ways to update the story for the modern era and throw some effective surprises our way. But unfortunately, I Know What You Did Last Summer is constantly bogged down by its uneven pacing, inconsistent tone, and unimpressive performances. When it comes to the story they decided to go with this time around, this movie does what pretty much every horror requel does nowadays, and what I mean by that is that it feels like they just took the script from the original, filled it to the brim with current TikTok vernacular, slapped a couple of legacy characters in there for good measure, and called it a damn day. And that's not some big surprise. We know what we're getting when any kind of legacy horror requel comes down the pipe. It's essentially the same movie over again, but this time there are a couple of characters from the original that come back to provide the new bunch of teens with the proper survival techniques, or at the very least have a scene where they can pick up the phone and say, "It's happening again." But it's all a very similar setup to the original film with a few details here and there that make it stand apart. And overall, I enjoyed the majority of the changes that they made. Like, you feel worse for this group of characters after the initial incident that puts this whole plot into motion. But as we got into the meat and potatoes of the narrative, I wasn't a huge fan of how some of it ended up playing out. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I always appreciate when a film takes a big creative swing for the fences, even if it doesn't work for me, rather than just playing it safe. And that's exactly what this movie does in the final 20 minutes of the film. Your mileage is going to vary with that big time, but yeah, it didn't work for me. When it comes to the performances here, you obviously shouldn't really be expecting anything award-worthy in a little summer slasher throwback like this. Even in the original, it's jam-packed with hot and iconic 90s actors that aren't all exactly known for their line-reading ability, but make up for it with their natural charisma and perfect hair. That's true again here, but the cast is relatively more unknown than everyone that rounded out the roster of the first movie. Madeline Klein is the biggest draw of the new crowd, and she does a solid job playing the Sarah Michelle Gellar role of this version, but there's nothing in here that's going to end up being all that memorable. I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't nice seeing some of the old cast again, like Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., but they're pretty much just going through the motions this time around and don't mesh all that well with the new characters. Don't get me wrong, there's still some fun moments between all of them and some solid comedy from time to time, but I didn't really find myself caring all that much about their well-being or anything like that. I mean, these guys were getting turned into fish food left and right, and I wasn't even batting an eye. Now let's get into some of the actual horror elements at play here, because I've always thought this franchise was more on the tamer side when it came to all of the gore and the kills. I mean, the villain uses a sharp-ass hook to murder his victims. You'd think that there would be blood and guts flying all over the place. So I was looking for them to hopefully kick it up a notch or two in this latest installment, you know, give me something to really squirm in my seat over, and to my absolute horror, they somehow made it even tamer. There was absolutely no tension to any of the kills, and for a slasher film, that's pretty much the kiss of death. There was definitely a solid blood budget for this project, I'll give it that, but without these sequences having any weight to them, it's not exactly put to good use. I mean, the fisherman never even psychologically tortures any of his victims, which is a key component of the original movie. If you want to see a beauty queen get her hair chopped off or the trunk of a car overflowing with crabs, you're shit out of luck this time. If there's one word to sum it all up, it's unsatisfying. Overall, guys, I Know What You Did Last Summer is what we've come to expect from another one of these horror franchise requels. If you've seen any of them, you've seen them all at this point. There's nothing in here that's going to surprise you for the better, unfortunately. The performances aren't anything to write home about, the kills leave a lot to be desired, and the story goes completely off the rails in the third act. There's still some occasional fun to be had with the original cast and exploring all of that Southport lore, score, but it might be time for the fisherman to hang up that old hook of his after this. I Know What You Did Last Summer gets a Sully score of 2 stars. So that's my review of the latest horror movie. What's a horror franchise you think really deserves to make a comeback? I think I have to go with Nightmare on Elm Street, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.